Near mint condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
Absolute format is the best way to own this store. Time to empty those wallets and fill those shelves. It is Tuesday, all you Minties. That means it's time to take an advanced look at all the collected editions coming out this week from Marvel Comics. I, the Uncanny Omar, will take you on this journey. The little epic. Hey, speaking of epic, see what anyway, sorry about that. Dad joke. I get one a month. Let's go ahead and get started. And welcome back, everybody. Now, before going any further, a big thank you to David Gabriel and the fine folks at Marvel for sending us advanced copies of these books. All of these books, with the exception of one, and I'll talk about that here in a second, are due out in the direct market and book market on May 6th or 7th, depending on where you get your books. The one book that actually came out last week was Deadpool Team Up. For some reason, I didn't put it with the other books, but someone reminded me on email, so here we are. We're going to be talking about that book as well. Before I go any further, also, don't forget to smash that like button, please. That goes a long way for us here on the channel. Small thing you can do, but it does mean the world to us. All right, 2 new Epic Collections, a brand new Marvel Masterworks continuing this, I almost said amazing series, but spectacular series, and some new trade paperbacks of ongoing series and a mini-series, and I get one pick of the week. Oh man, this one was a little tough. It was between a couple of these. All right, let's go ahead and start this week with Ahsoka Tano. Star Wars Ahsoka Season 1. And this is an adaptation of what happened in Season 1. By the way, anybody else try to pronounce this like it's a... I love Star Wars names because, you know, they're all, for the most part, made up, and then people get into arguments how to properly pronounce them. I guess it would be kind of a little bit like Ra's al Ghul, but anyway, sometimes it's like Ahsoka, or Ahsoka, or Ahsoka Tano, which I think sounds really cool. Anyway, am I the only one that worries about that? Like, even though I've seen the show, and I've seen her in the the Rebels show, and I'm like, or Clone Wars, and yeah, it's like I have to get it right. Anyway, so this is an adaptation of Season 1 of Ahsoka. We have Rodney Barnes writing it, Stephen Cummings with Georges Genti, who has kind of become the artist to get when you have an adaptation of real live actors. And you have inks over here by Wayne Faucher, Carl Story, and Dexter Vines, and Rochelle Rosenberg being the color artist, and letters by Travis Lanham and Joe Caramagna. So this is collecting issues 1 through 8 of Star Wars Ahsoka, and it has 264 pages and retails for $34.99. Now, it is very important to note that this kind of gives you a little bit of what happened here to some of the characters. This is a continuation of things that happen in Rebels. So if you haven't seen it, you might be a little bit lost. But if you want to jump into this book, I guess that's fine by reading this. It's still a little confusing, especially if you don't know who the Jedi Knight or former Jedi Knight Ahsoka Tano was. But it does have a lot of characters from said shows, Clone Wars and Rebels. So it is all a show of catching up. Some time has passed since the ending and what happened to the Emperor Thrawn, and what exactly this new character is trying to do. The character of Morgan Elsbeth returning with some new Force users like Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati, or as the internet like to call her, Hottie, which is really weird, but hey, that's the internet for you. Yeah, but where is the Grand Admiral Thrawn, like, during the beginning of this? But he's not the only one that's missing. There's also Ezra that's missing, Ezra Bridger. So in here, she is reunited with characters from the original show, so you will see Sabine through here, and Hera. So Sabine Wren and Hera Syndulla return here. Along with Hu Yang here, her robot assistant here. But it is all a journey on trying to find where exactly Ezra went. And does it have connections where Grand Admiral Thrawn is? And if they were to get out Ezra and find him, does that mean that Thrawn would be coming back with them. So there are going to also be some appearances here from other characters, established characters in the Star Wars universe. I'm just for example, Mon Mothma makes an appearance through here. She isn't the only one, and you're going to see some new villains through here. And who exactly they are? Are they on the side of the Jedi, or are they on the side of the Sith? Again, all of this taking place after Rebels, and kind of tying up some loose ends. It does end on not a huge cliffhanger, but it does end on a bit of a we have enough of a story for a second season. But I do believe, and please let me know in the comments down below if I'm right, that I think it's going to be made into a movie. I think Dave Filoni said it was going to be made into a movie. Again, a straight up adaptation with a couple of liberties here and there, like showcasing like some different sides of things that we didn't see, or I guess alternate scenes that we didn't see in the TV show. So if you're a stickler for those kind of adaptations, then this is the one for you. I do love the fact that we get to see Sabine go back to her old ways, if you will. Now, all the way in the back, we do have variant covers. These are concept art variants right here by Brian Matthias. And it's a beautiful piece by Aka. And speaking of beautiful pieces, that one's also a really pretty piece right there. And I have to talk about the cover. Like, the cover itself, I think, is absolutely stunning by David Nakayama. I've always been a fan of his art and his colors. So, this one is 264 pages and retails for $34.99. Faces of Moon Knight. And I need to go ahead and apologize, because whenever I was doing my upcoming collected editions for the month of May, I was talking about how excited I was about this book. This is a continuation of Jed MacKay's series. So it went from Moon Knight to Vengeance of Moon Knight. No, Faces of Moon Knight is not, well, I mean, it is. Jed MacKay does work in this book, but it is not the new ongoing series. Let's look at the back here. So yes, Vengeance of Moon Knight is the second series. It is a mini series. So this is collecting Faces of Moon Knight 1 through 4, 136 pages. As I flip through here, you might see some spoilers as to the revelation who the new Moon Knight is. And I don't want to spoil that, so just in case, because there's nothing I can do as I flip through here. All right, so let's talk about what this miniseries is. But first, the creators, you have Erica Schultz, Jed MacKay, Julie Kaku, and Fabian Nicieza writing a really awesome story. Each one of them are writing a different story, and each comic collects 2 different stories, except for the third one. The third one actually has 3 stories there. But you have Benjamin Percy, Declan Chave, Justina Ireland, Chris Giarrusso, and Tom Waltz. And then artists like Manuel Garcia, Jorge Fones, and Eder Messias, and Rod Reyes. So collecting all 4 issues, 136 pages, $17.99. What each issue does, and what each of the stories does in here, is give you a different era. Like, this is taking place before the mission. So this actually takes place before Vengeance of Moon Knight. And it goes back through different times of Moon Knight. Sometimes in the past, this is a freaking awesome story here, 1200 England. Sometimes in the future, believe it or not. And there's a couple of cameos if it is taking place in the past. People that I didn't expect to see, but actually kind of makes sense for the whole idea of the Fist of Khonshu, right? Like where it originates from. And each one is a different incarnation of the Fist of Khonshu. So it is a different Moon Knight. For example, this one here is set in the future. Not 2099, 2846. So way further into the future. But that's what the character looks like. I do love the fact that we do have a different design for each of the different eras. This is the anime one. I really think this one is the most unique one. This is from Moon Knight Chan, the Past is the Present mini Marvels. But just looking at this art style, even though it's brutal, it definitely has that anime flair, like a magical girl type of story. Like, of course, Sailor Moon is immediately where I go. But then, more like Madoka, if it's that violent. And I have to mention Pretty Sammy, of course. We do have different incarnations of Moon Knight, and sometimes it's a huge surprise as to who is behind the mask. So again, not so much alternate realities, but just different eras of the Fist of Khonshu and what it means to serve Khonshu, with different creators working on each of the different stories. And in the back, we are going to get some variant covers. And this one here by Salvador La Roca. 136 pages, $17.99. Deadpool Team Up, Blood of the Dragon. So this is Rob Liefeld's last hurrah. Until the next time, perhaps. But for now, working on the character of Deadpool. So this is collecting Deadpool Team Up 1 through 5, 120 pages, and retailing for $17.99. It is written by Rob Liefeld. He's even doing the dialogue, and penciled by Rob Liefeld, with inks by Rob Liefeld, Chance Wolfe, Ed Tadeo, and Corey Hampshire. Juan Manuel Rodriguez doing the colors, and Joe Sabino doing the lettering. And bringing back, I think Deadpool Team Up had 2 previous volumes before this, so this has to be the 3rd one. So in this story, it's all a chase type of story, and I'm sure you got as excited as I did with the return of that character, because hell yes. So this is a chase story where it's about a chase of the dragon egg and how different characters want this dragon egg. And of course, Wade Wilson gets caught in the middle of it. And along for this crazy ride are his friends, although he doesn't claim to have friends, he just has frenemies, and some returning villains that kind of get caught in the crossfire. And speaking of returning characters, we do have Lady Anime coming back from, I think it was the 2004 Deadpool or X-Force series, Cable and X-Force series. So it is all a mission to try to save this dragon egg. Now, there's different forces that wanted. There's a character of the Dragon Lord, Raul Dorn, that shows up through here, who came back from a Fantastic Four annual, this guy right here. And his dragon is Dragon Man, Draconis here. So he's able to manipulate and control dragons. And there's returning villains also from that Fantastic Four annual. And where they're going to try and hide this egg are different worlds and realms, including weird world, like where Crystar lives. So Crystar gets involved, Wolverine gets involved, pretty much everybody on that cover gets involved, including the return of Major X, another creation by Rob Liefeld. So I think this is the first time they've met each other, Deadpool and Major X. And in here, there is a revelation as to the identity of Major X, and I thought they had already done that, but I guess it makes sense if this is the truly last Rob Liefeld Deadpool work, why he would change it. But sure, there's fights in here because, of course, we're talking about a team-up book, and there is unfortunately some misunderstandings where heroes get into a fight, and everybody goes after this egg. And Deadpool just doesn't really know exactly what he's supposed to do with it. The main antagonist through the series is this character named Skagger Rekractor, I think is how you pronounce the name. Probably not at all. But that is pretty much somebody that wants to control and become the new Dragon Lord. So that's what this is about. Misunderstandings, heroes fighting heroes, villains fighting heroes, villains fighting villains, all for control of this dragon egg. In the back, we do have some variant covers, including some by Maria Wolf, who's freaking awesome. And again, this book has 120 pages and retails for $17.99. Exceptional X-Men, Volume 1, Duty Calls. So this is another book that is from the Ashes era, and this one is written by Ewing and penciled and inked by the phenomenal Carmen Carnero. Nolan Woodard is the colorist, and Joe Sabino and Travis Lanham are the letterers on this book. This, just a little bit of spoilers, does take place after the events of the fall of Krakoa, and where Kate Pride has been, although she's going by Kitty now. So, going back to the beginning, back to the roots of Kitty Pryde, back to Chicago. Matter of fact, Bridgeport, where we find Kitty Pryde being a bartender. Now, this is something that she has been in the past. This collects issues 1 through 5, by the way, 128 pages and retails for $17.99. We have seen her become a bartender in the past. As a matter of fact, every single time I want to say twice it's happened, she's tried to quit the X-Men, which is where we find her now. It seems like that's the type of life she tries to lead, that, or going to college. But here, she has moved in with a childhood friend. So, this is Preeti. So, they both live together in Chicago, and she's a bartender at nights, just trying to make ends meet, and trying to get away from the whole X-Men era. Trying to put aside that, like I said, this makes sense for the character, because she has tried to do that in the past. She has tried to walk away from the X-Men many times. But trouble, as always, seems to come looking for the X-Men. So what ends up happening is one night when she's supposed to go on a date, she ends up meeting this young lady right here, who is not allowed into this nightclub, and the security guy pushes her, even though she's a kid, and she turns into Bronze. So, as a matter of fact, that will be her code name. I think you can probably see where this is going. So, mutants are being feared and hated again. Like, it's become that type of thing after the fall of Krakoa. And it seems like Kate is trying to leave that world behind, but it keeps coming back looking for her. So, she gives the young girl her number. Emma Frost is trying to contact her. Now, this is after the events of Uncanny X-Men, when Rogue tried to contact her. Now, in the second issue, she goes out on a date, and at the soccer game, we are introduced to the two other young characters of Melee and Axo, short for Axolotl, because of the way that he is able to change. Melee can turn invisible, and Axolotl has this interesting power where people just come and say things that they're thinking to him. Like, they open up to him. Sometimes that's good, and sometimes that's bad. And even though Kitty doesn't want to train him, even though she doesn't want to be responsible for leading this new era of mutants, she's still put into a corner where she has to, because Emma Frost comes in and she's like, well, if you're not going to train him, I will. Petrie ends up telling her that, hey, you know, I do have this is kind of cute right here, where Bronze comes up with all the superhero names. But she has like this old, her aunt left her a warehouse, and she's like, you guys can go and train there. Iceman comes over for a visit. There's misunderstandings. I will say, this one here, unlike the other books, doesn't really have a super villain. It's pretty much 5 issues of setting up these new characters. Issue 1 introduces us to Bronze. 2 introduces us to the characters of Melee and Oxo. And 3 is the whole concept of, well, maybe I should teach them. 4 is actually training them. And there is just a little bit of a crossover with X-Force through here. But anyway, there's misunderstandings. And then, of course, why is Kitty trying to give up this life? I mean, what did she do exactly that she feels horrible for doing? Now, let's look in the back here. Because if you're not familiar with what she did, it's okay. She actually explains what she did. And there's a flashback. These are the variant covers by David Baldeón. Some of them in thumbnail size and some of them in splash pages. It's beautiful. Joelle Jones right there. Elizabeth Turk. Carmen Carnero. And then other variants over here. And then other From the Ashes trade paperbacks. And that is Exceptional X-Men by Eve Ewing. Avengers by Jed Mackay, Volume 4. Storm. Gee, I wonder what this is going to be about. You probably guessed it. This is collecting issues 17 through 24 of the new Avengers, it's not called New Avengers, of the Avengers series from 2023. Valerio Schitti and Farid Karami are the main artists, with colors by Brian Valenza and others, and Corey Petit doing the lettering. Here are your main players: the Star, the Icon, the Witch, the Construct, the God, the Engineer, and the King. And of course, all of them being established characters in the Marvel Universe. And this is in the aftermath of Blood Hunt. So again, just spoilers for talking just a little bit about this, in the aftermath of Blood Hunt. And also the aftermath of the fall of the House of X, the fall of Krakoa. And the Avengers are sitting around, trying to decide what to do with themselves, like how they should be of better use. And Storm is asked to join the team. This beautiful artwork through here, man, he is killing it. And this is all in the midst of Hyperion coming and attacking. Which version of Hyperion am I talking about? Because there are different Earths with different Hyperions. Well, you can find out by reading the book. There is one really, really cool issue in here. This also ties into this One World Under Doom storyline that's going on. Doom is actually asking the Avengers what their purpose is. What good are they? And I want to get to this. Yeah, the city has sent, while the Avengers are there with Doom, T'Challa is in Zone 14, trying to liberate this zone. This is a really cool standout issue because it shows you the power and that charisma that only Black Panther can have, and why he was picked to just go alone in here. And then, of course, the connections to the city. But mainly, this is establishing Storm as your key player. This is Black Cat coming in here and trying to gamble with the wrong person, is all I will say. While the villains are still playing a huge part in the story. Oh, it's so good to see TechNet, Gatecrasher, and the rest of them show up through here. And expect that one. But yes, the big villains that have been playing a part through here, they're still a huge part of the background. Like what exactly are they trying to do? And yes, since Jed Mackay is writing both X-Men and Avengers, there's a little bit of a game that happens between both of the teams. And pulling at my old heartstrings, man. I love stories like that. But rest assured that these guys are still a huge part of the game. What game exactly are they playing? I don't know. It's kind of leading up to it, that's for sure. And then in the back, we do have variant covers here by Lucas Wernick and Paulo Villalobos and other creators. And Avengers 20 variant, Sanford Green, and Peach Momoko. 184 pages, $24.99. And it is that part of the video where we look at all the spines of the books coming out this week. Well, except for the one that I talked about, the Deadpool team-up. But also a small reminder to hit that like button, please. Goes a long way for us here on the channel. Small thing you can do. But it does mean the world to us. Alright, let's continue with the overviews. Alright, now let's talk about Deadpool Modern Era Epic Collection. In Wade We Trust. Now, the solicitations for this one are wrong. It's actually collecting Deadpool 1 through 19, the 2012 series. So this is right. Volume 5, 2012 to 2013, Parental Advisory. But I've seen solicits that have 1 through 14, 20, and 26. But no, it's all in here, issues 1 through 19, unbroken. 440 pages, $44.99. So this is a modern era book. And this is kicking off the Brian Posehn and Jerry Dugan era. And you have Tony Moore, Scott Koblish, and Mike Hawthorne, and Declan Shalvey doing the stories in here. Like the artwork. And kicking it off with the first issue from 2012. This is the Dead President story. So pretty much this character that used to be part of S.H.I.E.L.D., Michael, who will be known as the Necromancer, making his first appearance here. And you're going to see a lot of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents through here. What he ends up doing, because he thinks that the world is corrupt, mainly the United States, he ends up resurrecting presidents of the United States. So it's like Abraham Lincoln zombies, George Washington zombies. And what ends up happening is S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't like the idea of someone like Captain America decapitating, like, President Truman. So what they do instead, because they think Captain America has just too big of a name and everybody recognizes him, let's get Deadpool to do it, to go after these dead presidents. So that's what they do. Agent Gorman, Agent Preston, what is the other agent? Agent Scott, all play a part through here, recruiting someone like Deadpool to go after these dead presidents, these zombified presidents. That's what the first 6 issues are through here. The one character that plays a bigger part than all the other S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, besides, of course, Michael the Necromancer, is Agent Preston. Something happens. I don't want to spoil what, yes, Doctor Strange gets involved through here. It's actually really funny. I like this era of Deadpool. And okay, so what happens is that through here, you're going to see her, Agent Preston, and Deadpool share a brain. So what ends up happening is that Agent Preston is going to reside, like her her essence, her mind, her soul is going to reside inside of Deadpool's body. So he is sharing his body with Agent Preston and himself. I'm not going to go about how, but you can read about it yourself here. This is an introduction by Jordan White talking about these type of issues that you're going to be finding through here. These, as he calls them, are inventory stories. Like back in the day, he talks a little bit about here how they had these backup issues in case the creative team was running behind. So it's done in a retro style, including the colors. And it's not the first time you're going to be seeing it through here. You're going to see him team up with Iron Man, yes, in his own Deadpool way. And you will see the return of those stories. So then we go back to the regular story of Agent Preston and him just living in the same body and how Deadpool is getting used to it, if you will. And this is when he ends up taking on a fight against aquatic creatures through here. Necromancer still playing a little bit of a part in here. But he makes a deal with a certain demon to go and capture some other demons that are roaming the earth. And that's what this particular, I think it's like the next 4-issue story arc with those retro series in the background. So he ends up making a deal with a demon, and then yes, you are going to be seeing other demons show up. This is the retro story right here, the inventory story, as Jordan White likes to call them, with Power Man and Iron Fist. And this one here is the fight against Mr. White. However, that will go and kind of open up the door for the next story arc that really wraps up this collection here after the fight with Mr. White. Yes, right here. This is the reason, this story right here, the good, the bad, and the ugly, is the entire reason this book gets my seal of approval. This is such an amazing story that shows you the range of someone like Wade Wilson. Because when you think of Wade Wilson and what came kind of before this, like I've talked often about my love of Cable and Deadpool, and you know, what came before that kind of became like a hijinks type of character that breaks the fourth wall, kind of almost like insane type of character. And then when Dugan and Posen took over the book, they kind of bumped the quality up a little bit as far as how Deadpool operates. And this is just a beautiful story about a scientist, somebody from the Weapon X project, that needs to kind of harvest the organs of Deadpool in order to save his wife who has cancer. And it shows you the just trauma that Deadpool went through and all the horrible things that he himself had to endure and the losses that he's had. I think it's a wonderful story. I mean, it's dark. It just, you know, it's this, you know, we still have this goofy thing with Agent Preston in his head, but this takes like really brief moments and explores them for Deadpool when he's facing these horrific consequences of what's been done to him, and of course his own mental instability and the type of relationships that has cost him. It's a great character study arc with, of course, a badass team up with Captain America and Wolverine. It's a great story if you've never read it, and showcases just how funny yet endearing someone like Deadpool can be. And then in the back, we do have variant covers, because now we're looking at the era of variants, where we're going to start seeing more and more variants through here. There's the script to issue number 7. And then Declan Shalvey's sketchbook right here, including Captain America and Wolverine, and of course Deadpool. And the layouts by him. 440 pages and retailing for $44.99. Avengers Epic Collection Volume 12, Court Martialed. We're looking at 1981 to 1982, and this one has been a long time coming because this is one of those gap fillers. It's crazy. We have The Evil Reborn here, Volume 11, and then we have Seasons of the Witch, which is Volume 13. So, it's such a great feeling whenever that gap is filled. But there we go, all three of these together. But today we're talking about Court Martial. So what exactly is this era of Avengers? So Volume 12, 1981 to 1982, we are looking at Jim Shooter, Bill Mantlo, J.M. DeMatteis taking the top billing, Bob Hall, Greg LaRocque, Rick Leonardi, and other artists like Gene Colan, who actually kicks off the book, Dan Green, Chick Stone, and so many different inkers, Janice Chang, Joe Rosen, the letterings, and then Christy Shealy and Bob Sharon taking the top billing for the colors. So collected in here is Avengers 210 to 226 and annual number 11, plus the Vision and Scarlet Witch 1 through 4. The book has 528 pages and retails for $49.99. So we do kick off in this big fight against this new villain called the Weatherman, where Captain America calls in even Thor to put a stop to this. But the big thing that happens here are, just like every other incarnation of the Avengers, there is a big roster change right here with issue 211. Out with the old and in with the new, where Captain America realizes there's just way too many Avengers that he needs to just focus on only 6 of them. So some of them end up leaving, like, Beast ends up leaving the team. Wonder Man takes off. Scarlet Witch, which we'll see a little bit of Scarlet Witch later on. Jocasta does join, and then I think she ends up leaving as well. And then, of course, the introduction, or at least her introduction to the team, of Tigra joining them. So there will be a core 6 members of the team for a little while, with pretty much the Wasp kind of leading them. This is the fight against the Elf Queen. And you're also going to start seeing the fall of Yellow Jacket, where he goes a little bit too far, and he ends up getting court-martial. And that is not Hank right there. That is Scott. I love that cover with Hawkeye right here. Now, when Hank Pym ends up getting court-martialed, there are going to be some changes that happen within the team internally and how they're dealing with them. This is where Warren Worthington III and Courtney Southern are just having a peaceful time, and then end up calling the Avengers to come and fight off against this demon, this Sarathos demon, otherwise known as, that's right, Ghost Rider. The Molecule Man comes back and puts, like, New Jersey in this, like, underneath this barrier where no one can really get in or out, and what he wants to do is absorb the world. And of course, the Avengers got to put a stop to that. Molecule Man looking really ridiculous. And this is the last hero standing right here, issue 217. Again, dealing more of Yellow Jacket and how he ends up. This is how he ends up escaping, perhaps. This is a really dark issue by DeMatteis about this kid that shows up at the Avengers' door and Wasp lets them in. And he claims that he is immortal and he needs the help of the Avengers to just permanently rest at peace. Like I said, a really dark issue that I didn't see coming. I don't think I've read it, but one other time. It might have been, this probably was in the Marvel Masterworks when that came in, because some of these stories are very familiar because of the Masterworks. And then we have, Janet, of course, getting her hair done, and the arrival of Moondragon. And she doesn't come alone. We have a Moondragon and Drax story that is going to be about 2 or 3 issues. This is the annual right here with Nebulon and his lady, and this is tying up some loose ends. And look who's making a guest appearance here on the cover. None other than Rom. Really thought Rom's picture was going to look like this. But no, there he is right there. Everybody's favorite Space Knight. And who will end up joining the Avengers? Well, you could probably see by the next issue who will be part of the Avengers team here. And yes, Hawkeye and She-Hulk are the ones that end up joining. Again, the roster is forever changing. Here's the fight against Taskmaster, and again, the team up with Ant-Man and Hawkeye. And Ant-Man kind of trying to help out Hank Pym, who, again, has is in prison. Oh man, and then Janet feeling all this kind of guilt because she starts a relationship while Hank is in prison. And what could that mean? And, he's about to go on trial. And that should happen in the next volume. Or no, hold on. When does that happen? That's why it looks familiar, because a lot of it happens in this trade paperback, The Trial of Yellow Jacket. It's like, when does that happen? Okay. So it's not the Epic Collection, The Trial of Yellow Jacket. It was just a trade paperback that collects issues 212 to 230. Okay. That's why I was getting so confused. We do have the Black Knight when Dr. Mordo shows up, or Dr. Druid shows up, sorry, not Mordo, shows up and sends the Avengers back in time and to team up with Dane Whitman. Now, Dane, there's a storyline that gets wrapped up from the early issues of Defenders. And here we have the Vision and Scarlet Witch just trying to live a normal life and trying to find out who really is Scarlet Witch's parents, like where she came from, like who is responsible for her. And again, this is a big book, collecting issues 210 to 226. Very close to what this collected, but hey, now I can get rid of this trade. I think, no, this goes all the way to 230. Oh, wait, but this has 227 to 237. I can't officially get rid of it. Man, you read so many of these types of collected editions, you start to forget where you originally read them. But this is the Avengers. This is the one that came really close to getting my seal of approval. But I had to give it to that Deadpool book. That one is so awesome. 528 pages. And let me just double check. Yep, $49.99. Last but certainly not least is the Spectacular Spider-Man Marvel Masterworks Volume 8. So this is the Al Milgrom era with, of course, Herb Trimpe. And all written by Al Milgrom with Bill Mantlo and Bob DeNatale and Louise Simonson doing the Web of Spider-Man issue. And here's your pencilers, Al Milgrom. Man, that guy was just a dude that wore all kinds of hats at his job. Herb Trimpe, and then inkers like Jim Mooney and Ron Randall, letters like Diana Albers and Janice Chiang, and colorists like Bob Sharon and Glennis Wayne. So there is an introduction here by Ralph Macchio. I want to say it's Macchio. I remember somewhere I read that he doesn't pronounce it the same way the Karate Kid does. Not Macchio, but Macchio. Though I don't know where I read that. And for some reason that's stuck in my head. And it's a great introduction talking about his pal, Al Milgrom. So this book collects Spectacular Spider-Man 92 to 100, annual number 4, which is beautiful, and Web of Spider-Man number 1, and Quest Probe number 2, 336 pages, and retailing for $75. And the introduction just talks about, the different hats that Al Milgrom wore. He was not just an editor, but he was a writer. He was a penciler. He was an inker. He was the kind of guy that would do everything around the office. I don't think the only thing he did was colors and lettering. We are introduced to the answer here, and it could be Al Milgrom's way to give a nod to Steve Ditko, because he loves Steve Ditko, and Steve Ditko created the question over at Charlton Comics, and the answer here is at Marvel Comics. But yes, the answer works for Kingpin, who is making Peter Parker's life a living hell during this time. Black Cat also doesn't help with the whole situation, and, him questioning his love of MJ. And she's more attracted to Spider-Man. She's not really that attracted to Peter Parker. So it makes for an interesting love type of story. And during this time, yes, he is wearing the black costume. Now, sometime here, which you're seeing in a little bit, you are going to see him go back to the classics. And there is a reason why he went back to the classic costume. We have the appearance of Cloak and Dagger, when the Kingpin wants to kidnap Dagger, because he thinks that will help with Vanessa, like bringing life back into Vanessa. And the return of Silvermane, this time around, working for none other than the Kingpin. So now he's got Silvermane, he's got the answer, and everybody's going after Peter Parker's the Spectacular Spider-Man, including the Black Cat. What role does she have to play in all this? And will she answer to the Kingpin and betray Spider-Man? And then eventually, he does come back to his original outfit. And the reasoning for that is actually in the pages of Amazing Spider-Man. And it's really cool because it's not collected in here, but if you have the Alien Costume, the Black Costume Saga in Omni Edition, or if you have those Marvel Masterworks of Amazing Spider-Man, they tell you, the costumes started trying to take over him. So he got the help of the Fantastic Four, and now the costume is being held. So he goes back to his original outfit here to try to take down the Kingpin and get Dagger back from him. And of course, the costume wants to break out, which will be revealed here in a little bit. And then we get this beautiful story of Aunt May. We don't really, up until this point, we really didn't get a lot of stories about Aunt May in the past. So this is by Bill Mantlo, Carrie Gamble, and Sal Buscema. And this is talking about her love and how she ended up falling in love with this guy, Johnny Jerome, and how Johnny Jerome was a bit of a criminal. Now, during this time, he is wearing the black outfit because it does kind of take place, but it would be hard to break up that story, so it makes sense why they put it here. It's also during this time that she's dating Nathan, and Peter finds this letter from Johnny to Aunt May, when she was young. I just think it's a beautiful, heartbreaking story about what happens, when you can't be with the one you love, and how she ended up falling in love eventually with Ben Parker. And the whole thing with, Uncle Ben and Aunt May. This is the Hermit storyline where a character tries to change his way. And finally, we get the introduction of a newer villain in this issue right here. The costume by now has escaped. And this guy right here is going to become our new villain. And a weird-looking villain, a jokey type of villain. But man, that second Spider-Verse movie proved how creepy this guy can be, and that is, of course, the Spot, making his full appearance here in issue 99. So I guess issue 98, 99. Herb Trimpe from the pages of The Incredible Hulk help out with this issue, and all of it leading into issue 100 with the big fight against not just the Kingpin, but also the Spot. Now, we have not forgotten about the black costume, because that does come back. And it leads directly into Web of Spider-Man #1. And that has been collected, again, in Omni format. And in the Black Costume Saga Omni. But this is the fight against the Vultures. And finally, Peter Parker getting rid of that outfit. And then we have the Quest Probe, which is a tie-in to a video game. A Scott Adams Marvel Comics Limited series. That was supposed to be, I think, 12 issues. But the company, unfortunately, went under. And they had to cancel it. I think there was going to be an X-Men one. Yes, and then later on, they put it in the pages of Marvel Fanfare, which is what happens with some of those stories. When Marvel Fanfare, we end up really loving those stories because it was the stories of what could have been and where they originated from. And then here's an article introducing the character of the Chief Examiner, who will be going around the Marvel Universe and studying the Marvel characters for as long as that series lasted. And then original artwork here, original pages, your biographies, and of course, sewn binding, 336 pages. And that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing any of these books, don't forget to check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content and page count of each of these collections. In the comments down below, let me know which ones you are picking up, which ones you're going to pick up if they make it into an Omni format one day, or which epic collections you are collecting. Are you a classic epic guy? Are you a modern epic type of person? Or are you just pure Masterworks? And that's it, everybody. Thank you for watching. Check us out on Patreon and Spreadshop. Amazing ways to support the channel. Everyone, stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.